All right, how's it going, everybody? Today I'll be showing you how to do an oil change on a first generation Honda HR-V. It's a pretty straightforward job. I'm gonna show you all the tools you're gonna need, and then we'll go into the process, and hopefully this will help you get it done nice, easily, and safely in your own driveway. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing we're gonna need to do is jack up the car, and there is a front jacking point. I'm gonna try to show you where it is. I will reference the manual here, but essentially if you go underneath the car, as you can see right here, there's a cross member, and right there, that sort of flat spot, is going to be where you want to put the jack in order to lift up both front wheels at the same time. You could jack it up one wheel at a time or one side at a time, but this is easier. All right, so again, to give you a good look at where I'm putting the jack here, so you want to use this kind of cross member here as a flat spot on it. You don't want to lift up here. This is the oil pan. You most definitely do not want to lift up from there back here, okay? And again, I'll put the diagram on the screen. As for the jack stands, I've got it right here under this part of the frame. It's going to fit real nicely right there. You could also use the pinch weld here, but it tends to mess those up, so I like to use the frame if I can. Now we're just going to chuck off the rear wheels. And it's always a good idea to give the car a push just to make sure that it's firmly on the jack stands and that it's not going to fall on you. I've also left the jack underneath here just to make sure that there's a little bit of pressure on the jack point so that if either of those fail, this is still holding it up. So now we're under the car, and we have to remove this plastic panel that protects the engine and the stuff we need to get to. So on the front here, we have these little pop clips, and they do sort of just pull out. So if you pull with your fingers on either side, then you can kind of pull them out like this, and then they just come off like that. If they're stuck on there, then you might want to use a flathead screwdriver. And there's really just one of those we need to get off here at the front. As far as I can tell, most of them are going to be Phillips heads. Screws. You're just going to work your way around and remove all the Phillips heads that are holding this plastic cover onto the engine or onto the car. Now we can access our engine drain, which is right here. You can see here it says engine oil. We're going to loosen this up with, I believe, a 17mm socket and then drain out all the old oil. All right, and then while the oil is draining, we can go ahead and turn our attention to the oil filter, which is right here. And you can use a specific one which has the right number of flutes for the specific Honda filter. And if you are going to keep the car for a long time, then you might want to do that so you can torque it down. I like these universal ones. This is one from Channel Lock, and it's just a little bit easier. But you just have to get a bit of a grip on the filter and then turn it lefty-loosey, like so. And it's going to start leaking out of there too, so make sure your drain pan can catch both, like so. And we'll start loosening up. And we'll just let it drain out of there for a little bit. All right, now we can twist off our oil filter the rest of the way. Let that drain out. All right, so now that the oil has drained, we can go ahead and replace the drain plug bolt, but we also want to install a new crush washer. This does come with the oil filter kit. If you buy it from Honda, you may have to buy it separately if you're buying an aftermarket filter, but definitely get a new one of these. And we just slide those in like so, and then we're going to reinstall it in the hole for the bolt at 30 foot-pounds. That's 30 foot-pounds. All right, and now we can go ahead and install our new oil filter. Now, some people like to pre-fill them, some people don't. I usually don't, but it's kind of up to you whether you want to pre-fill your filter. But what is a good idea is to get a little bit of oil and rub it around the O-ring for the new filter so it makes a nice seal with the housing. New filter, and I'm just gonna grab a little bit of oil and just go around the rubber gasket here. Make sure that that is lubricated. This will help it make a better seal with the housing. And then just spin it on. And some people like to use Torque Specs for oil filters, but in reality, as long as you get the gasket to seal, I usually go kind of as tight as I can by hand without being able to really loosen it easily by hand, which is safely on there. That's how I do all my oil filters. Again, if you want to use a Torque Spec, you can do that as well too, but you know, hand tight plus a little quarter turn is usually more than enough. And now that we have our new oil filter, we have our drain plug replaced with a new crush washer, we can go ahead and reinstall the bottom tray here, and then we can go up to the top of the engine and add our new oil. All right, under tray is back on. We can go ahead and drop the car to the ground now and then refill the engine oil. All right, and now the last thing we need to do is fill the car up with about 4 quarts of 0W20 motor oil. Again, you want to use high quality stuff here, so full synthetic is my go-to. And we're gonna pour in about 3 quarts and then kind of check where we're at on the dipstick. Okay, so we've got just about 3.5-ish quarts in there. Let's check the dipstick. Now, these plastic dipsticks are not my favorite because they're kind of hard to read. And so what I like to do is give it a good little clean off with a clean towel. Spray a little brake cleaner on it just to really clean it off. This will make it more readable. Shit, don't do that. And it's also important that you give the engine a minute or two just to let the oil drain all the way down into the sump, because if you check the oil right away with the dipstick, not all the oil's gone down, so it might read a little bit lower than it really is. So I've let it sit for a few minutes, and as you can see here, we're just about halfway up the dipstick right there. I'm gonna add just a little bit more oil, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so we've changed our oil and filter, but we need to reset the oil life message over here. You can see there 5% oil life, but we've just changed it, so we can go ahead and reset that. Really simple to do. All we're gonna do here is we're gonna press the trip reset button, but we're gonna hold it down. So we're gonna hold it down for about 10 seconds until we start to see this screen flash. And again, the engine is not on, but the car is on. Just gonna hold that down, and there we go. Now we're gonna let go of that button and then press and hold again. And eventually it will reset. There we go. And that is now changed. And if you see here, oil life is at 100%. So job done, nice and simple. And again, if we turn the car on now, the service light is off, the oil life is at 100%, there is no error message, and we are good to go. So there it is, job done.